Welcome to an all-new episode of Get Lit with Lianna, the podcast. Join me as I sit down with a new guest author in each episode to discuss their books, careers, and everything in between. Today, I'm sitting down with New York Times and US Today bestselling author Ashley Poston to chat about her latest book, A Novel Love Story. Ashley's books have been topping the charts. Her book, The Dead Romantics, and book, The 7-Year Slip, have just been all over every single Bookstagram page, Book Talkers page, and just every single shelf in every single bookstore. I was so excited to get to chat with her today about her newest book, especially since it's something that I don't typically read a lot of, which is magical realism. This is a book for anyone who loves books and story worlds. It's so much more than a typical love story. It really is a love letter to those who love to read. This was such a fun interview. I loved getting to know a little bit more about Ashley and her writing background, and she may or may not have dropped some major hints as to what she's working on next. So without further ado, my conversation with Ashley Poston starts right now. Welcome, Ashley, to the podcast. I'm very excited to have you on. I've heard nothing but the best things about you from so many other authors.
I was about to say, you heard nothing about me.
No,
what?
I've never heard of you before.
Who am I? What year is it?
Yeah, you've never written anything like memorable or decent. You know, you have no accolades. No one really gives a shit about you. No.
No. That's what my grandma thinks. So
no,
perfectly fine.
No, but I'm so excited to have you on this podcast. I feel like I've been like trying to make this happen now for a while. The stars never really aligned with your other books. Like the timing for this one was kind of perfect for me in my podcast journey. So I'm thrilled to finally have you here and to get to chat about everything about your latest release, because by the time this podcast goes live, A Novel Love Story will be out in the world. So I know you were just saying before, you're a little bit like, what's the word you want to use? I feel like you said nervous. But I feel like nervous, like, has like a negative emotion. Like, I feel like you're more like excited because, right?
Well, I mean, like I say like I'm like nervy because it's not as like serious as nervous. I'm not nervous in like the fact that, oh, how are people going to like, you know, read my book? Are they going to like it? Like obviously that comes with the territory. Right. That is something that like every author is like, oh, well, people like it. Who knows? It's art. It's subjective. But no, I'm just more, I guess I'm apprehensive. Yeah. So
fair. That's fair.
It's just I'm excited, but I'm also like my tummy hurts. So
I can relate. Relate. No, so I'm very excited for everyone to read this book. I absolutely loved it. I mean, there's like so much of you in this story and the way you write and like the kinds of books that you write that I really, really loved and thoroughly enjoyed. But before we talk about this latest release, I would love to go a little bit back just because I've never had you on this podcast before. Mm-hmm. And I would love to know a little bit more about like your writing background and like, I know you've written a million books, not just like the two other ones that everyone knows you for. So like, I would love to know a little bit more about your writing background and kind of how all of this came to be and how we got here today.
Well, back in the dawn of time, when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Exactly. Take me all the way back.
all the way back to the dawn of time when the earth was smoking and the lava flowed.
Exactly.
I started my writing journey technically when I was in high school. I queried when I was in high school, and now looking back, I understand why I never got an agent. I get it 100%. But I say I started way back when because I wrote 5 or 6 books in high school just because I just love writing. I've been writing since I was 11 or 12. I started writing fanfic first because that was my intro into the world of writing. And so I grew up in the fanfic spaces, and I realized, oh, well, if Christopher Paolini can write a book when he's 16, I can do it too. But like, no one tells you when you are 16 and Christopher Paolini is 16 and he has like, you know, a family who like helps him publish a novel. And, you know, there's like all these other things that like helped him out in the beginning, which like great for him. I was super stoked. A lot of people I know love Aragon. I did too when I first when it first came out. But like every person's journey is different. And that's something that I had to learn early on. So I wrote a bunch of books, and it helped me figure out like what I liked, what I didn't like, the tropes I like to use, the characters I like to use, the voice that I ended up fostering as I kept writing. And so when I finally decided that I wanted to publish a novel traditionally, I was like, okay, let's go out with this book, and let's see what happens. Turns out no agent wanted it, so but an ebook publisher from Bloomsbury, they had like an imprint back in 2012, way back when, they wanted it, and so that's how I first got published, was through an ebook imprint of Bloomsbury, and I published 2 books, and then life happened, as life always happens, and I wrote a book called Heart of Iron, which ended up nabbing me my dream agent, Holly Root. And we've been together ever since. It's been almost like 10 years now.
Crazy.
And I was on sub with that book for, almost a year. And in the meantime, Quirk Books came to me, and the editor had read my 2 previous ebook only books, and was like, we love your voice, we love what you're doing, we want you to write this geeky Cinderella story for us. And I was like, tell me more, because like I was in the fandom space. I did fandom things. I was cosplaying, I was going to cons, I was doing all this stuff. Like for a day job, I interned at Kadanta USA, and then I was their social media person for a while. And so I got to work with like Sailor Moon and Attack on Titan and like all those things, right? And so I was like, yes, no, I am this nerdy. I can do this. And I auditioned for the novel, and I got it. So that's called an IP, an intellectual property. So there's a lot of books, especially in the YA space, that are IP projects. And it's a perfectly like legitimate and like creative way to like get your foot in the door. And because I ended up making so much of what turned into Geekarella, they gave me maybe like a paragraph, but like each IP is different, right? Depending on like what like the publisher wants and what kind of story they want you to tell. But yeah, and Geekarella came out, and it was like a sleeper hit. Basically, it's still selling weirdly well.
So crazy.
And then that's kind of how I got started. I worked at Bloomsbury for a while. I was their marketing designer. So I like was in the publishing sphere, which is why I can like write so confidently about like being in publishing, is because I did know that HR person who did in fact cry at his desk at lunch every day.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like long story even longer. That was kind of what happened. And then 2020 happened, and Among the Beasts and Briars came out, and then Bookish and the Beast came out, and we knew with Quirk that Bookish and the Beast was going to be the last book in the Once Upon a Con trilogy. And after that, I went out with a few stories. They all died on sub, and so it was right before COVID hit. I asked my agent, I was like, Holly, can I write this weird thing? Like I have this fanfic that I want to take out of a fanfic, and I want to make it like my thing. Can I make it my thing? And she's like, yeah, sure. Go with it. What is it? And I'm like, well, it's a ghost story. So she's like, yeah, no, the weirder, the better. Do it.
Love.
So I was like, perfect. Yeah, let's do it. And so a few months later, I sent her a proposal for a book called Ghost Boners.
That's epic.
Yeah.
Epic.
It was something, and she was like, "This is great, except for the title. We can't
Right.
we can't go out with ghost boaters." And I'm like, "But Holly," and she's like, "No, no,
Yeah.
we can't go out with ghost
Oh
boaters."
my gosh.
So I turned my like Raylo fanfic into the Dead Romantics.
I love that.
Yeah, and then and like that was it. I found a home at Berkeley with Amanda, who takes my writing and she makes it something better than I could ever do alone, which I think is what a good editor does.
For sure. So what was it like then, the success of Dead Romantics and then obviously the success of 7 Year Slip? Like what was that experience like as someone who's been working at this for so long and having so many other books come before it, seeing this kind of like mass success on your hands with these two titles?
It's kind of surreal, honestly, because in my head, I'm still that mid-list author who couldn't even like get the email of her publicist and then finds out that like her publicist is like doesn't exist, right?
I hear you.
It's like, oh, good.
You're right. Good for me.
Yeah, it's like, I love this for me. It's a great journey. So it's very weird. I've had a lot of I wouldn't change my trajectory for the world. I love the books that came before my adult romances. They are books that like built the foundation of my career and also how I feel about my career. And those are the books that taught me that whether you're successful or not is not what is not why I write. And that's why I kept writing, is because I kept like, I just love to tell stories, and I love to tell stories to strangers, to people I've never met. And I also love to meet those people finally. And they're like, I really identified with this novel. And I'm like, oh, you too? So we're on this island together. Come to my island. Let's, and it's really nice to like, find other people through art. And it's just it's the part of this career that when everything else like goes like becomes a shit show, like that's like the one thing that is like, okay, this is why I'm here. And like it's so surreal because a few weeks ago I did an event in Florida, in Orlando, with like a really long time friend, Taylor Simmons, who just had a book come out. It's lovely. It's called An Infinite Pull. If you love like space, like space fantasy with like just a very aromantic romance, it's so good. It's like friends falling for each other, and it's just like the best ride or die. It's like not the kind of romance that like there's no kissing, there's no like there's no intimate scenes, but it's just like knowing like she writes the asexual experience of finding your person so well. Anyway, I just had to plug that because that is
I love that.
My heart. And there's really not a space right now for that in YA. So I think it's very important to like uplift those kinds of books when we can.
100%.
But yeah, I met a reader there at that event, and she was like, I started reading your books when I was a teenager. I started with Kikarella, and she's an adult now, and now she's reading my adult books. And I'm like, oh, you grew up with me.
100%.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's so surreal. It's just like, oh, you stayed with me. You've been with me all this time. Like, and it's when you're writing a book, it's so solitary. Sorry, I'm like kind of tearing up a little bit, but it's so solitary. And when you find readers who have stuck with you and who have like been with you through everything, that is one of the most magical things of this entire career.
And it's like so fitting and translates so well in this latest book, because your new book is really like such a love letter to book people and like book lovers. And it's so interesting because obviously it is a romance between like your main characters, but it's also just a romance between like a protagonist who just like loves books and like loves her favorite author and loves this story world so much. And it's such a different type of love story that I really have not read before. And I thought it was done so well and executed so like strategically and smartly. And like, it's so obvious, but it's not like shoving it in your face obvious. And I just like loved the execution part of this. So before we like go deep into the story, and like I have obviously a few questions specific to the story, I would love to know like the inspiration behind it and kind of how this concept came to you and how you decided to kind of go forward with this book in this way.
Ooh, I know, at least this is my truth, and it's probably the truth for a lot of other like bookish people. When like the world is like burning around you, you want to find the one comfort that you have. And sometimes it's like a new romance that you've read and you've just like kept repeating and reading over and over and over again. Sometimes it's a childhood book that you had that you go back to and you sink into, and it's just this comfort. It feels like pulling a blanket around you and kind of just like sitting in this like lovely kind of nostalgic joy. And I kind of really wanted to explore that and explore what happens when like you can't exactly ever meet the person who made that kind of blanket, that kind of nostalgic joy for you, and what happens to books and to creativity when the arbiter of that art is no longer there, and how the community and how other people carry on a legacy that one person began. And I really love that about just art in general, but especially books, because I think that's part of like what like the book community is, and like we're a living, breathing thing, and so we carry on like a legacy, and we carry on like the memories and the love from the book, from like the authors that can no longer like love their own books themselves.
Yeah. Such a nice, like full circle, warm feeling to like think about. Can you, in like just a few short sentences, I know it's like the most dreaded question, but for like those who have not yet read the book, because once this goes live, the book will be out, but it'll be freshly out. So what exactly, like spoiler free, is your latest book, a novel love story, about?
Ooh, okay. I know this. I've been practicing this. I got this.
Okay, great.
Okay. Eileen Merriweather is a professor of literature who finds herself stranded in the town of her favorite romance series. Yeah.
It is the perfect one sentence pitch. And to be honest, I'm somebody who typically does not go into books blind. Like I really like to know a lot before I go into a book. I don't know why I'm like that, but it's just like the way I've been as a reader.
I am too. Yep.
And like, I wish that I wasn't like that. But for whatever reason, I saw that you had a new book coming out. I'm obviously a fan of yours. I'm like, I'm going to go into this one like completely blind. And like, I want to say like 40% of the way through, I was like, I just need to like read the synopsis. Make sure, like, wait, like what? I was like, maybe this like technique really isn't for me. Like, I think I maybe should read synopsis before. And I was just like, it honestly, like, this is the book to go in blind. It was such like a treat and a surprise. And the elements of magical realism, like I've been saying this for the longest time ever. I always thought I was someone who was not a magical realism girly. And it's just proving me wrong time and time again, because I keep reading magical realism books unbeknownst to me. Like I'm not aware that this is happening and I'm loving them. So I'd love to know like I obviously know you're passionate about this genre. Like how do you even like execute something like this? Like what are some like writing techniques that like make this possible? Like as a reader, I'm just totally in awe of it. And I don't know how like anyone could like not only just think this up, but like put pen to paper and like actually properly write something of this genre. Like I would love to know your expertise in this?
Oh man. I wish I could say that I just write one draft and then we edit the draft and then it's done. A novel love story took 5 drafts.
Wow.
Uh,
Can I interrupt you from like the first draft until you were like, all right, hands up, I'm done? Like, how long are we talking?
mm, uh, it was the entirety of last year.
Wow. And is this like the longest you've spent on one story before, or is this like typical for you in terms of like timelines?
So the longest I've spent on a story was 7 Year Slip.
Okay.
For like a lot of different reasons. One of those reasons was my grandfather did end up passing away by suicide during the writing process. So that was a awful thing to go through. And so I always refer back to 7 Year Slip as, oh, it was my therapy book. I had to write it 7 times.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why it's like the 7 Year Slip, because it was draft 7 basically. And then so that was the longest, and that was absolutely the hardest. And that was one that changed the most from inception to final. But a novel love story, I knew exactly going in that I wanted it to be kind of this like interesting take on a portal fantasy, because she does end up like basically traveling to this fictional town, so it is a portal fantasy, but I wanted it to be grounded in like, you know, reality. So I didn't want it there to be like, you know, an actual portal or anything. I wanted it to be like a town that you could stumble, you know, into. So I knew that's what I wanted, but I didn't know where I wanted the book to start. And I didn't know what baggage I wanted to bring Eileen into. At first there was like, you know, something with her mom, and then she was getting over like a really bad breakup. And then finally I was like, well, all of this is kind of taking away from the community book aspect of this story. So instead I built her emotional connection around her best friend, because we all have that bookish best friend, right? We all have that 100%. One ride or die. And so I wanted to, I think I decided to have her explore like what happens when like someone else's story goes a bit further than yours. And like, how does that change their like your relationship with your best friend when your best friend is like going on and like getting married and like starting a family and like starting this like new chapter, and then you're still stuck in like the previous chapter and you're not sure if you're ever going to leave it. So and I think that's like, especially people my age, that's a lot of that's like something a lot of us are going through.
For sure.
And so it's just like, you know, relationships change, but it's something that you always have to work through. So I basically like talked myself through that, because I was, you know, going through that a little bit with one of my best friends, and so that's kind of how a novel love story like ended and came to be. But yeah, it was like too many drafts, way too many drafts.
So like from your original idea to like the very end of like what readers are reading in their hands, like how changed was the story? Or like, are there any big elements of it that you had to sacrifice for the story to make sense, or any big changes? What's on the cutting room floor, basically, I guess.
There is something, but it's kind of spoilery.
Okay, we could put like a spoiler. If you haven't yet read the book, come back to this part.
Yeah. Come back to this part. Spoiler starts now. There was a draft where she was slowly becoming part of the town.
Wait, like in what way?
So she was slowly becoming like a tertiary character in the town, and so if she decided to like stay, she could never leave, and she would be in this lovely town forever, like experiencing the same thing every day, and nothing would have to change. And obviously that was like her crux was like things changing,
right?
So that was something that I ended up not including in the final draft.
Wow, that's a good spoiler. That's a good spoiler. Did you find that it was hard to like go in a different direction in the end and not go that route? Or was it like, did it feel right and natural for you from the get-go to go a different direction?
It felt very natural because I ended up going in the direction of what happens after the wedding and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that it was a lot more powerful for Eileen to make all of the choices herself in this novel, and to like and to not be like swept up in the town itself, because that draft was like she was just reacting to things that were happening, and this was a book where that she needed to be like be the main character and actually like make things happen.
Right.
And so that ended up being a much stronger emotional pull. So
Right. Love. So obviously there is a love story element to this book. I mean, of course there is. I would love to just briefly touch upon Eileen and Anders like relationship and that love story. Like what was that like to write for you? Obviously, I feel like everybody loves like a grumpy sunshine kind of trope. What kind of tropes were you hoping to incorporate? How was it like writing this particular love story? Like what was a fun moment looking back writing on it? I would love to like just dive in a bit to that element of the book.
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Favorite scenes in the book for me were any scene with the cat.
Of course, as we see your one of your 100 cats behind you.
There's two of them behind me. There's Goose and Beanie.
So cute.
They are. I am surprised they have not come up and interrupted this yet. They're being very, very good kitties. Those are my favorite scenes. I just love Butters so much. I wish Butters was real. But there's a talk, well, a speech, kind of, not really a speech. There's a seminar. It's not really a seminar anyway. It's a talk that Jennifer Lynn Barnes wrote about writing to your id. And it's available on the RWA website, I think for like $20 or something.
Okay.
But she talks about like writing to the things that like make your like brain go all like tingly. And there's like, she goes into the science behind it, of like, there's beauty, there's so now you are at.
Because we drew attention. We spoke about it into the universe.
We spoke about it, and now Beanie is just like, okay, well, she's here now.
Can I see her? Lift her up. Can I see her cute face?
Yeah. Beans.
Her coloring is insane. I'm sure you get that all the time, but oh my God, she is so damn cute.
Yeah, she looks either like a tortie or a calico, depending on the day.
Crazy.
And she has one kind of bum eye. It's we call it her mystic eye. She can see into the future with it.
Wow.
See when she's getting her Tweeties.
That's so cute.
She was a rescue from my parents' driveway.
Wow. How old is she? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea how old she is?
Oh yeah. No, do not step on the keyboard. Do not do that. That is not your keyboard. I got her when she was about 4 weeks old.
Wow.
Well, I rescued her when she was about 4 weeks old, and she is my most expensive cat to date.
Oh my goodness.
So she was free, but then she wasn't.
Right. It's so nice.
And I say that, and I have another cat who had Kitty Parvo when he was like.
Oh my God.
So,
oh my God, you have your hands full.
No, it's fine. He's now indestructible. Nothing's gonna.
I love that.
Gonna take him down now.
I love that.
But yeah, so I ended up listening to that speech because I was really stuck on like what I wanted to include in a novel love story, and like how I wanted the plot to go and what I wanted her to do in the town. And then I listened to Writing to Your Id, and I was like, oh, I just need to put in all of the tropes that I really love. I just need to write like my version or like a part of my version of everything that I love in romance novels.
Mhm.
So, there's, getting caught in the rain, and then there's, the bar with always the slightly dubious, bar food.
Mhm.
There's like, the intimate moments. There's the big there's like the big kind of like community family, and so I put in all of like the different tropes and the different like small town like plot signals
Mhm.
that I could. And one of my favorite ones though is when she's crawling up a trellis, long story, and she falls into the arms of like a romance hero from the books. And she's like, no, we're not doing this, because he's like the bad boy for the books, right? And she's like, no,
Yeah.
we are not doing this one.
So funny. All of those like little call outs and like the snapping back to reality of like me as a reader realizing like, oh yeah, she's like in this like fictional, but it's a real world of her favorite books. Like it's just that like those like little reminders of it were so like cute and endearing. And I've like truly never read anything like this, like a book within a book. That's literally what the experience was like.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I've read one before, Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Nitz, and I don't know last names.
Yeah.
But also the Broadway is really cute. But I remember reading that when I was a lot younger, and I was like, well, that's the only one that I've ever actually read that was like trad pubbed. I've read a lot of fanfics where like, a Mary Sue falls into
Right.
the world of like her favorite book or an anime or TV show,
Mhm.
and falls in love with Jensen Ackles. It happens.
Yeah, of course. That would be like my dream growing up, like falling just like face first into the world of like Gilmore Girls,
Yes. Oh man,
That would
absolutely.
be a dream.
Yeah, and like,
Ah,
falling for Jared Padalecki.
exactly. No one ever complained about a little Jared Padalecki in their life.
No, no, never. I mean,
Never. Oh, cool. This is so exciting. So obviously I have to ask this question and I'm not sure how much you can share or if you even have anything to share, but I know that everyone who loves your books, they're like me and they're greedy. So I just have to ask to appease everyone who I know is probably just like waiting to hear, what are we working on next? If anything, if we can share, I don't know, maybe early, don't want to like rush you knowing that your book literally is coming out right now, but
fun story. I'm working on draft 2 of this next one, so we are doing a little better.
love.
Every book is like so different, just writing them, but this one is really fun. I'm learning a lot of new things. It does not take place in the publishing industry.
Okay.
It's not about books.
Okay.
So
That's fun.
yeah, I think that's the one. I think that's all I can really say about
That's
it.
fine. That's fine. I mean, people will just be so happy to know that like something's going on.
Oh yeah, no, there is going to be a book out next year.
Okay.
And yeah, no, that's absolutely happening. And like the year after that, and maybe there might be some romantasy in my future. Who knows?
Okay, I have to just like be my honest true self. I literally have never been a romantic girly. Like I try and I try and I try and I
Yeah.
just cannot do it. And then over the winter break, like Christmas break-ish, my sister-in-law was like, just humor me and read Fourth Wing. Just see what happens. So
I
like
got you.
no, but you know what the craziest part is, right? The craziest part is that the romance part literally didn't get me. The only part that I liked was the fantasy part.
The dragons.
I hate that shit. So explain it to me. My sister-in-law's like, hey, so what did you think about the romance storyline? I'm like, yeah, it didn't do it for me. She's like, wait, sorry, who are you? Like, so now I think I may be a fantasy girly and I just am not aware of it.
I mean, I think you might be a romantasy girly, but only for like certain tropes or any like certain tropes and stuff.
Maybe.
I mean, because like that's how I am. No offense to Fourth Wing, but the romance also did not get me. What got
Okay.
me was the fun little asides between the dragon and the main
Yes.
character.
Yes. I
So
love
good.
that banter. Like when they're like talking through the minds or whatever. It
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh, what am I reading about? I don't know. No, it got me. I was like, I love this. I love the sassiness. I love it.
Yeah. That's it. I was like, okay, that's it. I mean, and that might have something to do with my next book. Who knows? So
Okay. Ashley's making me a romantic girly one day.
I mean, it's still going to be like fabulism is going to be set in a contemporary world. My romantasy is going to be a little different.
I love. No, everyone's going to be so excited. And like, I'm sure everyone is just going to be like freaking out, obviously, over a novel love story once it comes out and everyone's going to be so excited. I mean, I hear is everyone waiting to get their hands on it. And those who have not been lucky enough to get ARC copies are just like awaiting release day. So,
oh yeah, I have no idea how like the ARC distribution system works. It's just like I guess it's just like the cat distribution system. If it happens, it happens.
Right.
And I like feel like so bad because I'm like, I wish I could give everyone one.
I know.
That's not my
not your wheelhouse. I hear you.
Yeah, not my monkeys, not my circus.
100%. Exactly. Okay, well, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Obviously, you will be back next year.
Please, I would love to be back.
Please, anytime. Like, I'm so excited. But wishing you all of the success with this latest release. I'm sure everyone will love it as much as I did. And I can't wait for everyone to read it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. Thank you for letting me like just talk about this book that I hope people fall in love with Anders and Elorism.
They will. I'm sure of it.